The White Bear Micropub on Southbourne Grove is a proud supporter of AFC Bournemouth and sponsor of all departments. Head to the Bear for real ales, locally produced food and plenty of good conversations about the cherries. Check out www.thewhitebear.co.uk.
Here come the cherries and we're heading for the top of the tree. Bournemouth is a team that's going to show Division 3. Here come the leaders and the scorers at the Saturday, showing how to win the Southern way. So we sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. While you're out there winning, hear the shouting and the singing. We sing, come on Bournemouth, come on Bournemouth. Here come the cherries, here come the cherries, here come the cherries, number one.
Hello and welcome to All Departments. Our battling cherries had the better of a goalless draw on Saturday on a leaden-skied afternoon at Vicarage Road. Here to explain how we pulled another valuable point clear of the drop zone, it's Chris Whiteley. Chris, welcome to All Departments.
Hi, Michael.
So, I went along yesterday expecting a bit more needle between the fans and possibly on the pitch between the two teams. But in the end, it was a surprisingly muted affair, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I actually had we were very, very welcomed by the Watford fans before the match, and it seemed very, very muted in the stadium. So, yeah. And
I was speculating, possibly on the podcast last week, certainly with my mate that I went with in the pub on Watford High Street yesterday, about what Eddie would do with the team. And our two areas of speculation were the defence, Eddie didn't change that at all, and the formation. And I was saying I've got a feeling that sooner or later he's going to go 4-4-2 and give Afobe someone to play up there with him, which he did do in the end.
Yes.
Did you think that was a good decision?
I was surprised by the decision, I have to say, but I think we have been looking a little bit toothless up front in the past few weeks, and I think it was a good decision to give Afobe a strike partner. Yeah.
And the other development, of course, which we'll come on to quite soon, was the return of Max Gradel, which must have been possibly the worst kept secret of Eddie Howe's managerial career, because
yes,
Maxie tweeted, I think, about 6 weeks ago that he was aiming to come back for the Watford game. He put up more than one clip of him doing his rehab from the Ivory Coast or somewhere. And although Eddie made a kind of vague, he didn't even deny it really, he just said, oh, well, there's a decision to make about Max. The rumours were rife, and it was one of those where you thought, well, this is probably going to happen. And there he was on the bench, and we're all delighted. But no Mark Pugh, which surprised me.
I was surprised that Pugh wasn't even on the bench. And although, we discussed that Gradel may be coming back, I was surprised to see him to see him on the bench actually yesterday. So
I was a little bit, because usually there's one or two development squad games. I mean, Tommy Elphick's gone through this recently to pick up a bit of fitness, and then, well, we haven't got any more cup competitions, but you know, the players that have been able to try and regain fitness by playing in the cups as well. But no such delay for Maxi, just straight back on the bench, and as it turned out, he didn't have to wait long to get on the pitch. So we'll come on to that in a moment. It kicked off. Watford, our old friends, as everybody knows from last season, have done well this season, and a lot of their success has been built on the forwards, Deeney and Igalo, and I think they're a good combination. They've certainly scored a lot of goals. Deeney always impressed me with his power, and Igalo's clearly got a lot of talent and pace.
Yes.
And he nearly scored early on. It was one of two good chances he had yesterday afternoon, Igalo. He burst through, and his shot was on target. Boris was off his line on the edge of the 6-yard box, and he pushed it round. At the time, I didn't realise how good a save that was, but when I saw it later, I thought it was a very strong hand from Boris, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it was. It was a very good save, but I thought we'd, perhaps had started a little slower on the back foot, and we got caught short by Igalo. He brushed off Arter and went past Cook with ease, really. And fortunately, Borwick was there to stick a strong hand in the way.
And that didn't bode well for the rest of the match. Although, as it turned out, I thought our defence marshalled those two pretty well. I mean, we'll come on to the other chances that, particularly, Igalo had one other chance later in the game. But overall, I thought our defence played them really well, didn't they?
Absolutely, yeah. I think Igalo had a few chances which he squandered, as we'll discuss later. But generally he was pretty quiet, and so was Deeney there. So which was good for us, really. But yeah, I think our defence did master them extremely well.
And it was essentially cat and mouse for most of the first half. The next major event, possibly the only one, and certainly from our point of view, the only major event in the first half, was when Junior Stanislas pulled up, and it seemed from where I was to be quite innocuous. He wasn't even, I mean, it was the hamstring, and it's been subsequently confirmed, and it looks like he could be out for quite a while. He didn't even look like he was going at full pelt. He was on the ball, and you saw him pull up, and it was obvious that must be the hamstring. But he certainly wasn't sprinting, was he?
No, he was. Yeah, he was. He was on the ball, like you said, and it certainly wasn't at full pace or chasing the ball. It seemed very unfortunate, really, and it looks like we're going to have to do without him for good number of weeks, aren't we? 6 to 8 weeks, they say at the moment. So. Yeah,
it's like I don't want to bring religion into this program, but they say the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. He took away Stanislas and gave us Maxi back. Great to see Gradel back. The worst thing about that was, though, that as soon as Stanislas pulled up, it was obvious the excitement in the crowd and the thoughts of the crowd immediately turned to getting Gradel back on the pitch. And there was no, Stanislas doesn't really have a song, but there was no sort of obvious sympathy for Stanislas. It was more like the Maxi Gradel song, and everyone was, delighted and thinking, he's going to come on and make a difference, which he did. Mm-hmm. But I felt a little bit sorry for Stanislas in that situation.
Yes, I can understand that. He was, although he's had a great season. He's one of these players that you kind of almost feel that we can do without, and there's plenty of replacements to come in. In the previous times he has been injured this season. So although it's disappointing to lose him, you knew that Gradel was going to come on and do a job. Although I was surprised that Iturbe wasn't perhaps given a chance, because I suppose that Howe probably wouldn't have thought Gradel could have coped with 70 odd minutes. So. Yeah,
I agree. I had 3, shall we say, mature ladies sat immediately in front of me, and my eyesight isn't the best, but theirs is obviously still holding on quite well, because there was them that confirmed to me. They go, "Oh no, Gradel's been called back. He's stripping off," and I was like, "Oh right, he's going to come." Worth a kind word for Ben Watson as well, who did his bit for cordial relations between the two clubs by kicking the ball out when he could have just tackled quite easily Stanislas and raced off with it, couldn't he?
Yes, yeah, I did notice that bit of sportsmanship there. It was good to see.
And so we didn't have to change formation, and as we said, quite a bit of excitement, and as it turned out, with reasonable justification in terms of Maxi being on the pitch. But throughout the first half, we spoke about the formation, but we didn't mention him by name. I was really impressed with the work that Josh King did. He was a real menace. He played high up, even almost in an advanced position, ahead of Afobe, but his pace was a constant thorn in Watford's side, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah. I mean, that is his biggest strength, isn't it? His pace. He did get a few chances later in the game, which he unfortunately squandered. But yeah, he did give the Watford back four a run around, didn't he, with his pace?
Yeah, and it's noticeable when he's played out wide as well, the damage he can do when he can knock the ball ahead of himself and sprint onto it. Although I did notice they weren't slouches in the Watford defence, but
No.
I think he's I think there was something on YouTube midweek where Mark Pugh and Sean McDonald were talking about various players, and they said he was the fastest in the squad, and I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, maybe Callum Wilson will be able to give him a run for his money, if you pardon the pun. Yeah. But when Wilson's fit. But all that said, and he did play well. In fact, he was probably my man of the match yesterday, although he ran out of steam, which was also understandable because he's put in such a shift. The actual link up and combination of him and Benik Afobe didn't show on yesterday's evidence any signs of it being a success anytime soon, did it?
No, it didn't quite seem to click, did it? I thought Afobe, he had a few offside decisions early on in the game. He's playing off the defender, wasn't he? But I was quite impressed with his hold-up play as the game went on, though. So, but yeah, it's a relationship that is yet to become fruitful.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned offside. There was one which I did think it looked a bit suspicious at the time, and then when I saw it on the telly after I got home that evening, Afobe was definitely onside, and it was King who played him in, and he was past the defender.
Yeah,
and
it was exceptionally close, wasn't it?
Yeah, and Afobe didn't have any chance at all that I can remember yesterday, but that would have been a chance, and Gomez played really well yesterday, and he always seems to do well against us.
Yes,
but I'd have backed Afobe to score if he'd have been through there.
A one-on-one, he would have had a very good chance, wouldn't he? So
yeah, and it was a shame. I mean, obviously, but also it was a shame because if he'd have scored, then there's just little question marks. I can see little whispers on the forums and stuff, or some of them aren't exactly whispers, about his recent performances. I mean, I think he's played 6 Premier League games. He's scored 3 goals, so...
Which is a pretty good return.
Yeah.
I think he's... I thought he hasn't scored in the last few games. He seems to provide that hold-up dimension, really, and he's allowed Gradel to get into the game later on, and he allows King to get into the game. So I think... the goal's not coming at the moment, but I still think he has a valuable place in the team. So.
Yeah, I think that he came into the team full of confidence. He was scoring regularly at Wolves, and that carried him through the first few games with us, and obviously the goals were still flowing.
Yes.
But there's an adjustment to make when you move clubs, and players come to Bournemouth and quite often say it's different to anywhere I've been before, and all this kind of thing. And I think his initial period of still being on a relative high in terms of his confidence in his playing when he arrived has kind of somewhat subsided now. But you can tell he's got quality. You could tell from the goals he scored for us, and that he's done well at Wolves and Milton Keynes and a few other clubs, that he's going to be an asset to us, and hopefully he'll score sooner rather than later again.
He's certainly the best striker, out striker that we've got fit at the moment, I would say. And I don't think his place in the team is going to be threatened anytime soon. So
no, not at all. And I like the idea of him playing with a strike partner. I think it works. It didn't work in any way that you could point to yesterday, but I think it's got the potential to work. And, I hope it will, like you said, bear fruit soon. Fingers crossed. Were you surprised yesterday by Watford's style of play? Because although I haven't obviously studied them, and I guess I haven't really seen them on TV or anything this season, apart from when you see Match of the Day, which is obviously just the highlights. But they've done well. They've got 37 points now. They're not going to have any trouble staying up.
No.
But they seem to be largely, and I don't know, you could put this down to some good work we did as well, because we did defend really well, as we discussed, but just sort of looking to play the quick and at sometimes long ball forward to Igalo and Deeney, and that appeared to be it, really, didn't it?
It did, yeah. I noticed that quite early on. They were very keen to bypass the midfield almost and get the ball straight to their key man Igalo, really, who fortunately for us had an off day, but he's clearly he's their number one target man and their biggest threat. So it's all balls go to him, really, don't they? So
yeah, I think I just expected them to perhaps have more width in their play. Yeah, like you said, the midfield was somewhat anonymous, and I expected them to be look more dangerous, really. And credit to us. I thought we competed well throughout. Well, the first half it wasn't one that will live long in the memory, but we looked strong and hungry, and I felt, and it's easy to say this, the game having ended on a clean sheet and without a defeat, that we looked like there were signs that we were turning the corner after a few defeats. And, you could look at the opposition and say, well, we were playing Watford, we weren't playing Arsenal. But then, we played Stoke recently, who you could, at least in terms of their record this season, compare with Watford. Mm-hmm. And we looked second best against them. So, yeah, I was pleased with the way it went in the first half. There was a few talking points from the first half which weren't necessarily linked to the actual play on the pitch. One was Aki, their winger. He tussled with Charlie Daniels, and they both raced for the same ball. I can't remember who got there first. I think it might have been Daniels. But anyway, Aki was going full gas, and he just ran off the pitch and disappeared over this wall. And I expected him to be at the same height on the other side. But of course, a lot of football grounds, it isn't like that, is it? It's slightly deeper.
Yeah. It looked like he took a few foot of tumble there, didn't he? As he went up, and fortunately he managed to get up and wasn't hurt. But
yeah, did you see the shots? Somebody had a phone or something and filmed it from the other side. Did you see that?
I haven't seen that. No.
Yeah. Well, he landed very cleanly, like a cat, right, studs onto concrete. That's not easy, but yeah, he because I saw one. I don't know where it was. It was in the Premier League, I think, and they have those like wells for the camera that sometimes are just on the edge of the pitch. They're quite dangerous. The player runs off the pitch and falls into one of those. So yeah, good feat there from Aki. He's obviously got 8 lives left now. So
it was probably provided the largest entertainment of the first half, unfortunately.
Well, you say that, Chris, but that's obviously you must be forgetting Arthur Boritz and the beach ball.
Oh yes, yeah. I had forgotten about that.
We were pretty much making our own fun at this point, and it wasn't exactly of the same quality of that time when Liverpool conceded that goal from a beach ball on the pitch. But yeah, it was. There was a beach ball went onto the pitch, and I don't know how much Boris was concentrating, but it seemed to take him ages to spot it, didn't it?
Either he was deliberately ignoring it, but I think he just hadn't even spotted it. And then when he did, he decided not to kick it back into our end, but he decided to kick it up the pitch, didn't he? So I'm not quite sure the thinking on that. But
yeah, I can only
funny.
Imagine, and I'm obviously speculating, that he thought it might cause some sort of delay in the game, and therefore, it's like they're always the away team, and we're as guilty as this as anybody else away from home. You're trying to sort of run that bit off the clock. And any little, 2 or 3 second delay is another 2 or 3 seconds you don't have to worry about. Yeah, and then eventually he decided to boot it off, and I thought he missed an opportunity to endear himself a little bit to the fans, because he just kind of passed it over the wall, and he could have booted it up into the crowd, couldn't he?
Yeah, he could have done, yeah.
Yeah. But never mind. It's obviously an irrelevance. And the ref yesterday, I thought he had a bit of a funny game. He gave a lot, like every little thing he seemed to give a free kick for. Later in the game, after ages of giving free kick, he then started to pull the cards out. Anthony Taylor.
That's right. Quite lean initially, yeah.
Yeah, my favourite part of his refereeing performance was in the first half when the ball went off quickly for a throw-in on the Elton John stand side, the new stand they've got there, where they used to have that sort of ramshackle mess, which has all been sorted out now, and it looks a lot better. And it was a Watford throw, but the guy took it, and it was clearly a foul throw. And the ref let him have another go. Do you remember that?
That was quite near the beginning of the match, wasn't it? It was. I wasn't quite sure of the of why he allowed him to take it again, because it was clearly a foul throw, and I'm sure the referee had indicated that. But
that's just not the rule, is it? The rule
it's just not the rule. You turn it over to the other team. It was very bizarre indeed.
Yeah, I mean, there must have been some reason. It seemed to happen quite quickly. The guy took the throw, and it was almost as if, the ref was saying, "Oh no, I wasn't ready. Take it again."
That's what I thought the only reason it could be.
Yeah. But even that isn't the rule, is it? It's not like a free kick where you have to wait for the whistle. You just take the throw and get on with it, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. It was a very, very bizarre decision for the referee.
It was. I've never seen that before.
No.
And just one more thing was, I'm sure you've seen the picture, the drawing of Ewan O'Kane and was it Prodel or somebody from last season? He obviously
Daniel Pudel, yeah, I've got it in front of me here.
Yeah, he put his foot, his studs on Ewan O'Kane's ankle, which turned at a very unnatural sort of 90-degree bend, and for all the world you think, well, I mean, he was injured after that, but you thought it would be a lot worse than it actually was. And somebody in the Watford media department decided that it would be a good idea to include a sketch of that in. I think it was. I didn't buy a program yesterday. I didn't see anybody selling one. I sort of rushed in at the last minute, and in the kids section in the program. That was a bit bizarre,
right. Yeah,
wasn't
it's in the junior Hornet section as a kind of guess who of the players, and rather badly judged cartoon there. It was, and how the editor of the program could let that one be published is beyond me. So
yeah, and people have been jumping up and down, on the Bournemouth side since the game about that, and it was, I think, a mistake by whoever is responsible for that, and I guess ultimately it's the program editor, and the artist issued an apology saying it was bad judgment. I don't think the club have, whether they do or not. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It was just a drawing. I mean, the actual tackle itself was the thing that needed to be apologised for in the first place. But just really bizarre. It's just, they could have drawn anything, couldn't they? But just not that, really.
Well, all the other cartoons are of just single players, and then there's this cartoon of Ewan O'Kane having his ankle stamped on and turned 90 degrees. So yeah, it does. I'm sure it isn't, but it does seem like a little dig or something. So.
All Departments is sponsored by the White Bear Micro Pub on Southbourne Grove, the perfect pre- and post-game venue to chat about the game, and only a 25-minute walk to the ground, or there's a bus stop right outside. Wear your AFCB shirt on any match day and receive 30p off each pint. Check out www.thewhitebear.co.uk.
So, on to the second half. I thought we improved in the second half and were definitely the better team. I thought Max Gradel looked surprisingly sharp when he came on. We've discussed the fact that he seemed to have walked straight back onto the bench with not a game of any description under his belt, and then was called into action on the 23rd minute. So, yeah, essentially played 70 minutes. And he's just a threat, isn't he? He looks to beat his man. I think he could get his head up a bit more at times and look for the pass. But he's a great person to have coming into the team for the running, isn't he?
Oh, absolutely. I thought it took him a few, the first half to get into the game, but the second half I thought he was the best player on the pitch, certainly in a Bournemouth shirt, and played really, really well. He was my man of the match. He looked very threatening, and I was quite impressed with the way he was cutting inside, and he probably had all of the best chances fell to him, didn't it?
Yeah, he admitted as much actually after the game that the first half he was kind of not completely, and it's brave in a way to mention this, but I guess it's okay when you're coming back from long-term injury because it's understandable and he did play so well, that he wasn't entirely focused on the actual game itself. His mind was, because he was surprised to come on so early, wandering to the fact that, wow, I'm back on the pitch, and, you know, sort of thinking back on all the hard work during the last 6 months that he's had to put in, and he said it was only really at half time he was able to gather his thoughts, and then, you know, that was it. He was back into being a first team footballer again, and yeah, he just had a good, well, he played all right in the first half, and, you know, like you said, a very good second half, and he did have some good chances. I mean, he had one where he played a neat little 1-2. It was almost like a 1-2-3 with Andrew Sermon.
Yes.
And it was just blocked. That was, I mean, it was very tight space in the box, and we played it around a little bit before that. I think Afobe was involved as well. That was a neat little passing move, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. I think Afobe won the ball kind of on the edge of the penalty area and managed to hold it up, and found Gradel, back to Sermon, back to Gradel, and it was to me it was probably the best chance of the game, and it was a good save from Gomez, and yeah, a nice little move there early in the second half.
Yeah, Gomez is rapidly becoming he's joining the list of goalkeepers I don't like, along with Elliott at Newcastle. Those two are sort of making me feel a bit grumpy every time I see him in action.
He did have a very good game.
He did indeed. Now, I think it was in the second half, it might have been the first half actually, that Josh King got himself involved in a little bit of argy-bargy with Miguel Britos. Britos seemed to, well, he did pretty much grab King, well, almost round the neck with his forearm.
He did, yeah.
And then Josh reacted and just, he did push him in the face, or, well, it was his face, the lower part of his face, where his mouth and his chin were. So both were bookable offences, and I guess anyone who's played football and has had that sort of treatment meted out by the opposition has either reacted or had to force themselves not to react. But I suppose, you know, the way you see the referees dealing with those situations is that you raise your hands and put it in someone's face. You often see a red card, don't you?
Yes, well, I suppose on paper the ruling is hands to the face, it's a red card, but you could argue that they should have both been sent off. But Britos certainly put his arms round King's neck and face and almost dragged him to the ground, and you could almost understand King retaliating there. But yeah, to both be let off with barely a warning, it seemed very lenient from the referee.
Yeah, it was. We've already discussed the ref. With things like that, he was making up his own rules. He definitely made up his own rules with the throw-in, and then he made up his own rules with that. Although I know the letter of the law, I think that probably was the right decision, because it was, you know, 6 of one, half a dozen the other, and all that kind of thing. That the best thing to do is just say, look, you know, you've both been at it. Any more of that, the cards are coming out, which maybe was what he did say.
Yes.
But I'm going to let it go this time. But that said, you know, you're not going to come across that leniency and perhaps, well, I'd consider it to be sensible refereeing every time. And so if you're going to push somebody back, push them in the chest. Don't push them in the face.
Absolutely,
you know, because it could end up with a red card. And the one moment of the match where I thought we were going to score was Harry Arter's shot when the ball fell to him outside the box, and he'll only take these shots, or he seems to only take these shots if he thinks it's on. If you don't think it's on, he tends to pass it and it goes around the edge of the penalty area like we do quite frequently. But this one, left foot, it was an absolute peach, and it looked, for all the world from where I was standing, like it was flying in to the top corner. But Gomez, who we've already mentioned, he palmed it away superbly, didn't he?
Yeah, he pulled out the save of the game there, didn't he? It had everything. A nice bit of swerve from there, lots of power from Arta, a typical Arta strike really. Gomez did fantastically to push that around the post. So
yeah, this footage on Match of the Day showed Eddie or virtually celebrating before, like the rest of us, realising, oh no, it hasn't. Well, it's been saved, a really good save, and that's the first thing you said to everybody around you. That what a save, you know. And, I've seen some footage recently of Gomez making a mistake for a goal this season. I can't remember who it was against. It might have been Leicester actually, and the ball kind of just creeping through his hands and possibly his legs. And I think, well, why can't he do that against us? You know, he seems to save his best performances for us. But that was a great save, and Harry has only got one this season. He missed a lot of the early part of the season. He is always looking for that shot from outside the box, and he's definitely got it in his locker. But that said, you just come up against a better class of goalkeeper in the Premier League, don't you?
Yeah, I don't think many other goalkeepers would have got a hand to that. But
an excellent shot and an excellent save. We had a penalty claim as well, and I've also seen Bournemouth fans saying it was a definite penalty today and a bit last night. There was a corner, it bounced up and it hit Barami, which from one angle looked like the arm. I, like everybody else around me, jumped up and shouted penalty. The players were shouting penalty, which is always an indication that something has actually happened. But when everybody's favourite analyst, Martin Keown, went through it last night, and I know he's not exactly flavour of the month with Bournemouth fans, but he showed it from different angles. I did actually, and I'd have been more than happy if the ref had given a penalty, don't get me wrong, but I did actually agree with what Keown said about it hitting him on the chest, and I didn't think it was handball. What did you think?
Well, like everyone in our end, I was jumping up thinking it was a penalty, but on later viewing, I think it would have been exceptionally harsh to give a penalty there. It did appear to hit his chest first, didn't it? And although it may have brushed his arm ever so slightly, I don't think with the handball rule these days you could have given that. So and the referee's view was blocked, so I don't think he had any way to give it unless the linesman had signalled it. So
can you imagine? Twitter would have gone into meltdown if we'd have got that penalty. You'd have been hearing about it for months from the.
Absolutely.
Well, it's only a handful of the Watford fans. It's only a handful of the Bournemouth fans that take the bait as well. But it would have been lively. Definitely, it would have made entertaining reading if nothing else. We spoke about Igalo and his second main chance, and this was the best chance actually for Watford of the game, was a header that he had, a free header. Amrabat cut the ball back to him, and despite having what looked like 3 or 4 our defenders in the vicinity, none of them were marking him tightly. I didn't really watch the build-up to it that closely subsequently, and at the time I can't really remember what happened, but he had a clear view of the goal, a free header. It was a good height for the header as well, and he had the whole goal to aim at, and he definitely should have got it on target, shouldn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, Amrabat beat Charlie Daniels, I think, down the right, got a good cross in, and yeah, Igalo should have definitely got that on target. I mean, he was, what was he, 8 yards out, so he was a little distance away, but he should have certainly done better, and it was a very good chance for him to score there.
When you look at those two yesterday, and we kept them quiet, and we have done most of the time since that 6-1 defeat back at the start of our championship, the first season in the championship. I think Deeney scored a hat-trick. I don't know if Igalo was playing for him then, but it just makes you think what our season would have been like, and it's all ifs, buts and maybes, had Gradel been fit throughout and Wilson been able to plunder even, like, I don't know what Igalo's on now, I think it's 14 goals.
14 goals.
Yeah, I think Wilson is, if he isn't still our top scorer, I think he's still our joint top scorer this season. I think Stanislas might have 5 in all competitions.
5, isn't it?
Yeah. Going forward, if we can stay in this division, that bodes really well, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think certainly we've clearly missed Callum Wilson this season, and if he'd been in the team, we would probably be in a similar position to Watford there, with 9 or 10 more points better off, and because he started off on fire, and I couldn't see any reason why he wouldn't have continued that. So that does, and it has been our biggest problem, scoring goals. As you can, Stanislas is our joint top scorer on 5. So
yeah, it's gonna be quite an achievement. Should we pull it off? There is Gradel's back. Mings is obviously not going to be seen for quite a while. Wilson's looking like he's going to be in contention going into the last few games of the season. Depending on how it's going, he might get to play or not. Obviously, there's possibility, as we saw with Gradel yesterday, that he could get game time through the misfortune of others. But yeah, I think it's certainly a lot to look forward to. It's just a matter of cobbling the points together to stay up this season. We're not a million miles away, but you never feel like you can relax until you make it over the line. And I think that Eddie was saying with his substitution when he took Afobe off, put Gosling on in the midfield, so we went 4-5-1, that although he was still have taken the win, he was protecting the point, wasn't he?
Yeah, he certainly was. Yeah, it was a tactical decision, wasn't it, to bring Gosling on, shore up the midfield, and I think it was a wise decision, really. I was certainly happy to walk out with a point, although I felt like we possibly could have got 3, but a point away from home at Watford is certainly a good point. And what with the other teams losing, it's 1 point gained, isn't it, on everybody else?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's pulled us just that little bit more clear. Tottenham did us a favour by managing to come from behind and beat Swansea today, because they've had a pretty decent set of results recently. So yeah, they've all lost. Newcastle haven't played. I think they were probably scheduled to play Man City today. So that's one game that perhaps they'll struggle in anyway. But yeah, and I mean, I also was happy with the point, and my feelings about the game were certainly influenced by us being on a bit of a losing streak, and that stopping in what were essentially positive circumstances. And although we should have, on balance of the game, we'd have been the worthy winners. Coming away with a clean sheet and a point was good enough in the circumstances that had led up to the game. So yeah, happy with that. Of course, Gosling had a chance not long after he came on. I think there was a bit of a problem for the Watford defence clearing the ball out of their box, and it just sort of fell to him in the 6-yard box with Gradel nearby, and I think he may have just got it quite under his feet, or he was slightly off balance. I just expected him to put his foot through it and leather it, fingers crossed, into the goal, but he he didn't really get hold of it, and then the danger was mopped up. But again, that was, or appeared to be, a gilt-edged chance, wasn't it?
It was a very good chance, and it seemed to me like he either didn't quite expect it for the ball to fall to him, or like you said, he got his feet caught up beneath him, because he certainly didn't strike it cleanly, and he was 6 yards out, wasn't he? So yeah, it was another very good chance there.
And at this point, we were dominant, really. We were certainly the most likely. The ball didn't really seem to leave the Watford half for very long. One thing I did notice with us was, and we spoke about the contrast in the styles of play, Watford were able to succeed in their game plan when the ball was being played high and the ball was in the air, and there was lots of challenges for the ball with headers and so forth. And whereas we needed to get it down and play, and when we were able to do that, which we certainly did a lot more in the second half, we looked really good and a real threat. And I just think it further underlines our style of football, and how it can succeed, but also how it can be. I mean, Watford weren't that successful at combating it yesterday. But the style they showed yesterday, which, as I said before, did surprise me, can stifle what we want to do somewhat. And we play what we all like to think of as the beautiful game. But I don't know about you, that was a real standout observation for me from yesterday, was how we looked so much better when we were able to just get the ball down and play. And at times, Watford didn't let us do that. But when we were able to do it, we were able to create chances, weren't we?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, we like you said, there were times in the game where Watford were perhaps a little bit more physical and really stopped our game. But we were allowed to play. We got the ball out to Gradel. Richie perhaps a little bit quieter, but we were playing our passing, our wide game yesterday, working really hard up and down the left touchline there. And I thought, yeah, we were back to getting close to what we all enjoy Bournemouth football to be.
Yeah, it's nice to see, and we had the majority of our best chances. We already discussed a couple of them towards, well, I suppose in the final quarter of the game, the second half of the second half, as it were. Murray came on for Richie. I thought Richie did all right yesterday. Actually, I thought he was. I think he's looked hungry since he has been out of the team, or on the bench a couple of times. I think it's probably only to be expected that a player will find a little bit of extra motivation if they have to fight for their place and don't feel like they're totally secure. And the way he's performed ever since he signed for us, it's hard to criticise what he's done, really. Absolutely. But I think there was probably a 5 or 10% dip in his performances this season, and I think it's probably helped him that he's had to just reach for that extra 5 or 10%, which is probably a difficult thing to maintain game in, game out. And he's done brilliant, like so many of our players have. But I thought he was looking like he was getting back to his best yesterday. I
thought he worked very hard. Not quite to his best, but I feel that I'm sure in the last dozen games he's gonna get there for us. So
yeah, certainly helped if he weighed in with a few goals. He got one against Stoke, and a few will be very welcome. He can maybe even become our top scorer before the end of the season.
Yeah, maybe.
And Murray set up Gradel, but Gomez again was there to save it. And Gradel, he had that header as well, which it was so.
The cross from King, wasn't it?
Yeah, so close to going in. I was up off my seat, and like you said, he had the majority of the chances yesterday, and it would have. You can overdo this a bit, but it would have been fairy tale stuff if he'd have got the winner late on, wouldn't it?
It absolutely would have been. There was about 10 minutes to go, wasn't it? And King put in a fantastic cross from the right wing, and Gradel found himself unmarked in the 6-yard box, and once again our friend Gomez pulled off another fantastic save, really. So it wasn't to be.
So that was pretty much it for yesterday. The game was overall a draw. Wasn't a total aberration of justice to us, but on balance, I guess if you had to pick a winner, it would have been us. I thought Watford were, as I already said, really sort of surprisingly toothless. Although credit to Francis and Cook in particular, the way they were able to deal with the aerial balls over and over again, I thought was excellent. Yeah. But when I left the ground, and I'm kind of repeating what we've already said here, I definitely felt a corner. It appeared just a little corner had been turned, and it's amazing how since the season we got promoted out of League One, and I'm trying to remember if it was before that as well, but how February has time and again proved to be a difficult month, and I can't put my finger on why it is, because I did come up with a theory once. It was to do with bedding in the new players in the squad from the January transfer window, but then of course I overlooked the fact that we didn't buy any players in the transfer window last season, and we still had a relatively difficult February. But the sort of, I mean, it's a load of old hokum, really, because what impact could the month of the year have upon your performances? You know, it can't be in any way used as a reason. But February's over now, or it will be by the time we play on Tuesday night, and you know, we're ending the month on a relatively positive result. And I just, I suppose when you lose a game and you lose a couple of games, you suddenly start thinking, oh, we're really going to struggle. But then even just a point yesterday at Watford made me think, oh, you know, we're still hanging on to those places just above the relegation zone. And we did have a little spell in the relegation zone this year, but we weren't in it for long. And I don't want to tempt fate or anything, but out of those, I think Palace are kind of in freefall, but I don't see them going down. I think every team above us, including Palace, are going to stay up. I think West Brom, with that win yesterday over Palace, pretty much guaranteed that they're going to start. With so many games left, they're going to get to 40 points, aren't they? And I just don't see Palace going down. So I think we're the top team of the mini league at the bottom that's fighting relegation. And I mean, that's the key thing, isn't it? We are the top team in that mini league, and that's the place you want to be, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. We hold that pole position, don't we, in the bottom six? And I completely agree with you. I can't see Palace or West Brom slipping down into the mix. So I think we're in that top of the lowest pile, and I'm confident that we can get enough points to stay up. So it's we need 11 points, don't we? So and I don't see why we can't get that. And I think there's certainly three worse teams than us in this league. So I've been confident from the beginning of the season, and I'm still confident now that we'll find a way to get the points and get a few wins.
I wish I had that steady confidence. I'm certainly more of a sort of up and down roller coaster type with my inner emotions about our potential to succeed in our quest, and it's the same every season, but different reasons. But I think on balance, you know, it's looking pretty promising, and a big game coming on Tuesday in more ways than one, playing Southampton, and we certainly consider them to be local rivals. They kind of look at us with a certain sense of bewilderment, and you know, there's no way you can compare our so-called rivalry with them to their rivalry with Portsmouth, which has got some, well, relatively ugly history, but it's definitely a fierce rivalry. But they're a good team, Southampton, and it pains me to say it. But that said, they have got a bad result in them, haven't they?
They certainly do. They're a good side, and well, they're in the top. Well, they're seventh at the moment, aren't they? So they're there on merit. But they got beaten yesterday against Chelsea. And I could see us getting a result on Tuesday night.
I think I'd turn into Kevin Keegan if we beat them. I would absolutely love it. It would just be, it just feels like it's something you've waited a long time for. But hopefully we'll get something out of the game. They've beaten us every time in recent years. We played them a couple of times in League One and once in whatever the League Cup was called then, and we've played them this season as well. And I think each time they've won by 2 clear goals. I think we've only scored once in those games. So I guess the more you play a team, I feel the same about Liverpool as well. We seem to have played them loads recently after not playing them for years and years. And you sort of think, well, if we keep playing them, sooner or later we're going to get some kind of positive result against them. So hopefully it will be our turn on Tuesday night. And then a massive game after that away at Newcastle. I suppose out of those 2 games, if you wanted to win one, the one at Newcastle would be the one. But I guess if we can cobble 4 points out of those 2 games, it would be a really decent return. So some really big games coming up, aren't there?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, Newcastle's going to be huge, and like you said, 4 points out of the next 2 games we'd be absolutely delighted with that, wouldn't we? But you're not sure what team's going to turn up at Newcastle. It could be they're so inconsistent, aren't they? they can get a good result, and then they can be absolutely terrible the next week. So,
And on Tuesday, I mean, we don't pick the team, but do you think Eddie will start Max Gradel?
I suppose whether if he's going to be fit, really. I think he certainly earned his place to start after his performance yesterday. Whether or maybe he might be on the bench and come on in the second half possibly, but
his other option is Mark Pugh. I don't see him starting Iturbe in a match yet, but I think he will start Gradel, and because he played well, so justifiably you can bring him in on that count. But also, I think it is a positive for the crowd. He's well liked by the crowd, lots of excitement when he's on the pitch, and sort of seeing him there from the kick-off, I think could create a kind of positive atmosphere that, you know, is obviously a help to the players. So yeah, I think he'll probably stick with 4-4-2 as well. So yeah, hopefully March has been our lucky month the last few years, and hopefully it'll turn out to be similar this year. All right then, Chris. Well, thanks ever so much for coming on the show.
Okay.
Like quite a few debutantes this year, you've come on in. Well, this wasn't difficult circumstances. Some people have come on after defeats for the first time. You've come on in a game that was perhaps somewhat short on talking points, but certainly not short on certainly not short on enjoyment if you're at the match, which we both were.
An enjoyable match.
I really enjoyed it. So hopefully your season-long confidence that we're going to stay in the Premier League will prove to be true, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much, Michael. Very enjoyable. Thank you.
Thanks again to Chris. Thought he did a great job minding what was essentially a wafer-thin seam of a game. Don't forget to keep an ear out for the new Back of the Net podcasts in the middle of this week. If you missed the first episode, be sure to pick up the next one, as Sean and Sam have got a great mix of all things cherry-flavoured for your listening pleasure. Well, a midweek treat approaches in the shape of our old friend Southampton on Tuesday evening, so let's hope we can celebrate the end of the always portentous month of February in style. So up the cherries in all departments, and goodbye.
This podcast is sponsored by the White Bear, your local micropub on Southbourne Grove, where you can't watch the game, but you can definitely talk about it. Head to the White Bear on any AFCB match day wearing your team shirt and receive 30p off each pint. Check out www.thewhitebear.co.uk.